Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for episode 144 of the MeepleCore Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple, and in this episode, I talk about the board games Kabuto Sumo and Picture Perfect. I also have a guest joining later in the episode, Alex Wolf from Spielcraft Games. He is the owner of Spielcraft and designer of the game For Glory, which has an expansion coming out today on Kickstarter, and much more. So how's it going, everybody? I am back. We got a guest on the episode today. Here in just a bit, I'm going to talk about the two games that I'm going to highlight in this episode first, and then we're going to have Alex Wolf on here, and we're going to talk about For Glory and the expansion, which launches today on Kickstarter. That expansion adds a lot of cool stuff, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Real quick, just speaking about some things that have happened since the last episode. I went on a camping trip, so that was really fun with my son. He's part of the Trail Life, which is kind of like the Boy Scouts, just a different company. Basically, we went and did some archery and some little jousting thing, or I don't know what it's called, pugilist staffs. I don't remember what they actually called it. Like tug of war stuff, like fun little outdoor camping type games. There's like 900 people there, so it was pretty big and exciting. I haven't actually camped out in many years, and honestly, it was awesome. I'm way excited about trying to camp more in the future. Man, it was a really good time. I'm really glad that we did that because, like I said, I haven't camped for a very long time. I don't know. When you're a kid, you remember things a little bit different. And I just remember camping on the Ohio River, and it was just cold and dirty and stuff like that and nasty. And I don't like sand too much, but this was in the woods, so totally different. Plus, I'm a lot older than the last time I camped, and I know what to do. I can set up things, to keep myself and my son comfortable. Like we brought an air mattress. I don't know. We didn't sleep on an air mattress camping when I was little ever. So I don't know why. I know some people are going to say that's cheating, but I don't really care. We were still outside in a tent when it was cold. It was about 43 degrees. So anyway, we're pretty much going to jump right into it because the interview is a little bit longer, and I want to go over these two games that we have. So we're going to start off with Picture Perfect. Picture Perfect is a game that came out this convention season, so obviously it says 2020 on BGG, but maybe that's the German release or something, but it says 2020. It came out, it launched at Gen Con, it was at Origins. I talked about it, I believe, on both of those episodes lightly, but we've actually played it a bunch since then and, going to talk a little bit deeper about it. So Picture Perfect, its designer is Anthony Navu. There's a bunch of artists, and the publisher is Arcane Wonders in the US. Picture Perfect is a game where you basically have these 14 standees. 12 of them are characters, and one's a tree, like a houseplant, and one's a dog. But you have 14 standees that you're trying to place near this 3D table, and in either next to the table or in the second or third row away from the table. However, there's stipulations, there's things that they have that you want to fulfill. They have like desire cards or whatever they're called. And those basically give you rules on how you place these characters. When you set up the game, you're going to take this deck of cards that are all these desires. You're going to put 3 of them in each pouch, and each pouch represents a character. They have the full printed artwork on it as the character or whatever. And you're going to, depending on the player count, pass out so many of those to each player, and the rest will be face up in the middle of the table. So you get to see which characters are in the middle, but you don't necessarily know who has what other characters, because you have this hidden screen in front of you that you can keep those packets behind, including all of your standees and your environment that you're setting up. So all that is hidden. You can't see what other people are doing. Not on your turn, but in a round, everybody's going to go through each packet they have one at a time. You can't have 2 packets open at once, so it's a memory game. You're going to look at all 3 of the cards for a character or a standee or whatever, and it's going to tell you stuff like, I want to be next to the table, or maybe I want to be next to this specific character, or I want to be in the back row. Maybe another one's like, I don't want my face to be seen, so we'll talk about that in a minute. All kinds of different things. Now, they're going to have 3 of these cards, and some of them will contradict, like somebody wants to be near the table but not near the table, or maybe they want to be in the front, or maybe even away from the table. Maybe they want to be next to somebody, but then the next card says, I don't want to be next to any females, and that other character is a female. So obviously it's not going to work. But the good news is only you know that so far. So if you can keep that quiet from the other players or don't trade them those packets, then you can score the most points off of that and they won't. Once everybody is ready, you can move your miniatures or the standees as much as you want anytime, basically. So it's not like you set and forget and you have to leave them there. Later on, you can change it because maybe you're like, oh, that character needs to be over here because it works best with these 2 cards, whatever. When you move things around, when you're done with your turn and everybody's done with the round, you're going to flip one of these cards over, and there's 6 of these cards that will basically tell you how you're going to exchange packets for the next round. So maybe everybody passes a packet to the left, or everybody exchanges one at a time with the packet in the middle. Or maybe everybody puts their packets together, shuffles up, and then redeals them out. Stuff like that. Once you got new packets, you do the same thing. You look through all those packets, you readjust your environment or your pitcher or whatever you're going to do, and you move on to the next round. And you keep going until the final round, which is like, I guess 7 rounds because you have 1 and then you have 6 cards. I can't remember if you flipped the first one or not. Well, anyway, it's about, 6 or 7 rounds. At the end of that, you'll go through and take each packet, reveal the 3 cards, to everyone, and then each player will score it. You're going to get, I believe it's 1, 2, and 6. So if you get 1 card right, it's 1. If you get 2 cards right, it's 3. And if you get 3 cards right, all 3 of them, it's 6 points. However, if you get no cards right, it is -3 points. So if you've never seen a packet of a character, you don't want to just throw him out there because you don't know if it's actually going to score or harm you and give you a negative score. In addition to that, it could be even worse or good because everybody has a VIP card. They're allowed to slot that into one of the packets at any point as long as you have the packet. You can't just put it out in the middle. That would also be kind of dumb anyway. But the VIP will double the score, positive or negative, for that standee. And so if it's a character that you know stuff about, maybe you want to double its points, get 12 points from it total because you can do all 3 cards. Or maybe you have a character that's really hard to do and you set it up, but you know that other people haven't seen it. You might be doing it specifically to double your points and to also help penalize them if they didn't even put them on the board. Or really, I guess you could, because you're not required to put all the miniatures out. I keep calling them miniatures, but they're standees. You're not required to put all 14 standees out. You can leave one off your board and not score it at all, which gives you 0 points, but it's really hard to do. Like, for instance, you can't do all 3 of them, or maybe you can do 1 and then the other 2 contradict. So that they're not going to really get good scores from it. So you might do it because you're banking on the fact that they'll get -3, which will end up being -6. Probably better to put it in there and bank for double points. But lastly, the game has a module expansion type thing where you have these table settings and they essentially act like money. You get these, there's 3, you shuffle 3 of the round cards into the deck. So you take out 3 and you put 3 in. So half the deck is now this module. So each round when you flip over a card and it tells you how to switch out packets, now maybe it'll be a module card, and that card will tell you everybody has to blind bid for the ones in the middle, or everybody has to pay somebody, and if you pay them the most, then you get the pick or whatever. I mean, there's a bunch of them. But basically, they're all revolving around bidding or using a closed bid or an open bid or an auction, things like that to get the packets instead. And you're using the table settings as money. Each table setting at the end of the game is worth a half a victory point. So it's rounded down though. So you obviously want to get every 2. And that's just extra points, but it adds something else into the game. Maybe somebody's trying to hoard a packet and that bidding allows you to get it at that last minute. I think this game was, and if you listen to the podcast, when I talked about the Gen Con episode, where I went to Gen Con, I thought it sounded cool and I was really interested to play it. And I watch Eric play it a lot, but I was like, I don't know, man. So I didn't pick it up. Origins, we actually sat down, or actually between Gen Con and Origins, I was like, I think I am going to buy this because they have the acrylics and they're a conventions exclusive and they're really expensive to make. So they're probably not going to make them again. And they look really nice. And I usually don't bling out my components, but I don't know. Why not? So I ended up buying it at Origins and playing it at Origins a couple of times. And man, really good game. This is so cool. I did forget to mention one major thing of the game, which isn't that necessary, but at the end, when you set up your characters and you're done, you're going through and scoring, you take your phone and you take a picture from whatever angle you want, because some of the characters don't want to be seen, or they don't want other characters to be seen. So you can use like the other standees to block their view, but you only calculate that from one angle. So if you don't have a phone, you can kind of position yourself and calculate it that way. But if you have a phone, which most people do, then you can use your phone to actually represent that angle. Plus, it gives you a really cool picture to look at later on when you're showing somebody about the game, because the screen that you have actually has, artwork and stuff. So you actually make it look like a 3D environment just from this one picture. And it's really cool. It works wonders for Instagram and things like that, because the game just looks really awesome, has a really cool table presence, and man, such a cool concept. And it's not that necessary. You don't have to have a cell phone, but like I said, everybody has one, so pretty much why not? Even if one person has it, everybody can take it using that one phone. It's not like you need 4 or 5 cell phones. Really cool game. I'm really glad that I picked it up. I think this is one that is different enough from pretty much everything out there. A lot of people compared it to like a retheme of Dimension, which I read that comment and was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but that's fine. I hate when people compare things when they think they know they're making a good comparison. In Dimension, you're placing these balls in a pyramid, and there's cards out there that said like you have to have more green balls than black balls. You have to more red balls than yellow balls. You have to have at least or exactly 4 white balls, stuff like that. And okay, I get it. It is similar in scoring, but you're doing something completely different. It's not a retheme. A retheme is literally not messing with the mechanisms or the way the game's played and slapping a new theme on it. Like, for instance, Monopoly. There's a billion versions of Monopoly. Maybe, like Narnia, Monopoly might have one extra rule, or games like Strategio, where the Narnia one has like a couple extra rules, but the entire game's the same. So if somebody has played that game and they sit down, you could be like, all right, here's the only addition. This piece can also do the special ability. That is what a retheme is. I don't know why people keep trying to pretend everything's rethemed. Like, is Mario just a retheme of Sonic the Hedgehog? Vice versa, actually. But you get what I'm saying? Like, it just, maybe that's semantics or whatever, but it kills me when I hear it. Anyway, if you haven't played this one, it lives up to the hype. It is really good. It is not a party game, unlike a lot of people thought it was, including me when I first saw it. It is definitely a puzzle game where you're trying to put things in the right spot to get the most points out of it. It just has a really interesting theme of like a dinner party. So there you go. I highly recommend it. It is a little bit thinky because if you don't have a great memory, you might want to pass on this one unless you want something to help you with good memory, because you only get to look at one packet at a time, and it's not like you get to take notes. So if you lose that packet by trading it to somebody else because of one of the round cards that come out, then you will be like, I don't remember what that thing said. And it might be frustrating, but it is a really good puzzle. So if you like puzzle games, absolutely check out Picture Perfect. Next up on the podcast is Kabuto Sumo. This was released this year during the convention season, so 2021. It's for 2 to 4 players. Designer is Tony Miller. Artist is Kawachi Moria. And the publisher is BoardGameTables.com, which would be cool if they changed the name of that, I guess. It's just such a weird thing that tables are publishing board games, but I'm sure they've heard that 1,000 times. It's like trying to make fun of Justin Case, his name, and be like, you know what your name sounds like? Yeah, I've heard that a bunch. Anyway, I cracked myself up. That's all that matters. Kabuto Sumo is a game that basically takes the coin-pushing arcade machines into a game form. Very filler-ish. It's 15 minutes, basically. It's 2 to 4 players. With 2 and 3, you do a free-for-all, and with 4 players, it has team rules for 2-on-2. There are setups in the book, depending on the player count, but basically, you have this, I don't know, maybe like 8-inch circle, like tree trunk thing out in the middle, and it's elevated a couple of inches off the ground, and then you have another piece of tree that you move around the outside edge of that you're going to stage a token on and push it in. So you have 360 approach when you're pushing a token into the arena. Unlike coin pushers, which are kind of more 2D, and it's just pushing them towards you, and you put the coins behind it and it pushes them into the other coins and tries to knock them off the edge. This is a 3D version of that, or 360 version of it, I should say. Everybody will have a color Meeple, which is basically this beetle looking thing of your color. And you're going to have it in the setup on the board. And the whole way you try to win is either push off an opposing wrestler, or if you're playing 3 players, it goes down to whoever's last man standing. Or I believe if there's a stalemate, which typically doesn't happen, or at least with us, I have read a lot of people saying they get into stalemates, but the game ends for them, I guess. But if you can't do something where you can't push a bunch of things around, the game ends anyway, and then you count up more like your pieces that you have left over. For us, I've always had this game end with somebody pushing off, but I am playing with kids, so it's maybe people aren't making the most amazing strategic choices because, they're just kind of having fun with it. That could be, I don't know. This game is basically, there's 2 ways to play it. You can play it with kids without special abilities, or you can play it with special abilities, which they're not really that complicated of special abilities. So I recommend just starting with that unless you get a really young kid. My kid's 5 years old, and I did not start with special abilities, and he did completely fine. Even adding in the special abilities after like 2 or 3 games, he was okay as well. Although he did miss not getting their pieces. So every character has like signature pieces that are specifically cut out, like these, I think they're like lobster claws, and there's a giant cactus and some other things. Everybody has like some unique shaped meeple that they can push in as well that you start with in the base game. But if you add in their special abilities, those are called signature moves, and you have to do things typically to earn those pieces. So like for instance, the praying mantis, he starts off with the praying mantis piece in the middle instead of one of the beetles, which is pretty cool. There's a stick insect that has 2 special abilities. One's called the big stick. So if you discard the base pieces in the game, there's like a small, medium, large, which represent like coins basically, right? Except they're browns and greens. You can discard a small and a medium to add one of the sticks, or to add the stick piece to your inventory. And then he has another ability. It's called walk softly, which is kind of hilarious because, walk softly with a big stick. Anyway, at the beginning of your turn, if the stick is on the board, meaning that you've placed it out into the arena, take any standard disc from an opponent's inventory, then give them 1 piece from your inventory, which is kind of neat because you can basically trade up the size of your discs doing it that way. There's another character that basically has all these little stars, and when you, I think, knock off 3 or more pieces, you can claim 2 of his stars, and then at any point when you get to go, you can instead, push a bunch of stars into the arena. You can push all 4 of them from the same location though, but it gives you a really good chance to knock off people if you're getting super close at, they're really close to the edge and you just need a bunch of pieces to go in there at one time. So everybody has all these cool signature moves. Typically it's a way to get the piece, or maybe, a way once you spin the piece, something activates. I will say that this is a really good game. This is really fun. I've heard a lot of people say it overstayed its welcome, but again, I'm playing this with kids, and for me, it's always 10 to 15 minutes. I can see though, if I was playing it with a bunch of adults, with no kids, that you can kind of tell when you push things in, what's going to be knocked out of the way or whatever. I can tell that maybe that would be more of a stalemate because you just get in the position where I push something, you push something, I push something, you push something. And it just, stuff is going back and forth, especially 2 players where you only have 1 guy a piece. I'd almost rather with 2 players play a 4-player game where I'm controlling my 2 characters and you're controlling your 2 characters. That probably works out better simply because you're not just doing the back and forth. If it's, I push something in and knock one of your guys close to the edge, you got to save him, but then I've got another guy to try to knock it off. You know what I mean? In a 4-player game, or if you're going to do it 2 players and share 2 pieces each, it's the first to knock off a wrestler and then the other team wins. You don't have to knock both off. So that's the way I would recommend playing 2 players, honestly. Plus you got 2 characters that you can use 2 neat special abilities on, and you always alternate characters. So like team A player 1 goes, then team B player 1, then team A player 2, team B player 2. So you're keeping that rotation up, but you have 2 characters to play with, and it's not so, you could just do a lot cooler things if you're playing with 2 models a piece. not models, but you know what I'm saying, 2 wrestlers apiece. Either way, is this game really fun? I think it's really fun. It's especially fun with younger kids. It's not a very complex game. If they really like coin pushing games at the arcade and you don't want to shove a bunch of quarters in there or, you know, slap your arcade card or anything like that and spend a bunch of money, I would buy this. This is a really cool game. My son really likes the art because it's very nature style. Like all the base characters are like beetles. There is an expansion, which I highly recommend just buying it at the same time if you can get it. And it adds, I believe, 8 new wrestlers, and they're all different insects. So it actually expands the roster, I think, for some kids. Like my kids really like insects and they like nature. And if it was just all beetles, it would be okay. But the fact that, you know, you got the walking stick and the praying mantis and you got like a lightning bug and all this other stuff, they really like that because they can pick their favorite little insects and not just be picking different types of beetles that have a special power. But the artwork's great. The components are great. I think everything about this game is fantastic. I highly recommend this, even with adults. I mean, I haven't personally played it only with adults other than when we demoed it at Gen Con, which we didn't play a full game. I mean, you know, we kind of did, but you're not really putting all your effort into it. You know, it was the full game, but it was more of like a filler-ish kind of, the game's a filler, but you know what I'm saying? Like we sat down and you don't make strategic decisions. You just kind of push things and see what happens because you're not trying to be competitive while you're sitting at a demo table. However, everybody did have fun, and everybody I've talked to that has played this really likes it, even with their gaming group. Really cool filler. The only thing I will say negative about the game is the setup. When you're setting the game up, it takes probably 2 or 3 minutes, unless you get everybody involved in kind of replicating what's in the rule book with how the pieces go on the main board, because the whole thing starts with a full board of coins, you know, small, mediums, and larges. And then your wrestlers are all set out in this symmetrical type of pattern. And it just, you might finish the game in like 5 or 6 minutes, and it almost takes just as long to set it back up, but it is what it is. So with that being said, even the game being short is still worth resetting the game up and playing it again in my eyes anyway. So that is, high recommendation from me. That is Kabuto Sumo. And with that being said, we're going to go on and have Alex Wolf join us to talk about For Glory and the expansion that launches today, Tuesday, October, was this 19th? Yeah, October 19th. Today is when the expansion launches. I checked before recording. It's already on Kickstarter. Highly recommend checking this out. I will be talking about it probably on the next episode in detail. This game is an arena combat game where people get into the arena. It's a deck builder, and you basically have a bloodbath of killing the opponent. The game's only 2 players, but this expansion adds 4 players and some other stuff. So let's check it out and welcome Alex Wolf to the podcast. All right, we got Alex here. How's it going, Alex?
Awesome. How about you?
Good. Thank you for joining us, taking some time out of your day. And when I say day, middle of the night.
There's plenty of time.
That's true. So are you a night owl?
Not that much of a night owl. I'm usually on a really strict sleep schedule, actually. Going to bed right at midnight every day.
Oh, I hear you. So right now.
Yeah, pretty soon.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Gotta fit it in. Actually, ironically, this whole weekend, I've been on a camping trip with my son. And so, like, I'm so tired, but I'm glad we're able to work this out.
Yeah.
Timing is a crazy thing.
Yeah, I was playing table tennis before this, so that's why I suggested such a late time.
Like ping pong?
Yeah. Yeah, it's, like, I guess even when I exercise, I don't get away from tabletop games.
That's fair.
But it's my main exercise every week, so...
Well, cool. All right, so we got Alex Wolf on here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, we got you on here because the Kickstarter that's coming to For Glory. But go ahead and tell us about who you are, what you do, company or whatever, and anything else you want to, and then we'll talk about the game, and then we'll talk about the Kickstarter. So
yeah, I'm Alex Wolf. I live in Omaha, Nebraska. I work at an insurance company during the day, and at night, my alter ego is board game designer / publisher. And I'm publishing with Spielcraft Games.
That's awesome. Actually, real quick, pause with that.
Yeah.
When it comes to your actual job, does a lot of people know what you do, or is this kind of just a random thing that sometimes they know, that sometimes they ask? Or
Yeah. So my employer knows about Spielcraft games, and like my boss and everyone up the chain of command really understands that it's kind of it's more important to me than their work. And it's a really cool situation that I have there.
That's awesome. Are they excited? Like, have they played it, or do they play board games at all?
Yeah. Actually, several of my colleagues have been involved with playtesting, and a bunch of people at the company were backers in the first campaign.
That's cool. Yeah. So they're supporting you pretty well.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it. So actually, kind of going a little bit out of order then, as far as board games go, have you been playing board games for a long time?
I guess I used to play Magic the Gathering a lot. I got into it when I was in middle school, and then got into it again after taking some time off in college. Would just spend my weekends in someone's dorm room just playing Magic constantly.
Nice.
And then I actually got into Netrunner, Android Netrunner.
The new version, like the Fantasy Flight one?
Yeah, when the new version came out. And I moved to China to get a new job and tried to find people who were playing Android Netrunner. And there aren't that many people in Beijing playing Android Netrunner, but I did find a board game store where they sold Netrunner. And when I got there for the first time, there were some people playing Terra Mystica, and they invited me to play with them. And I was thinking, I don't know if this looks like it's my type of thing, but it blew me away. And immediately I realized, like, I need to explore this whole world.
So how many years was that? Because obviously you're back in the States now.
I think that was in 2015.
Oh, wow. So that wasn't super long ago, but, you know, obviously,
yeah.
6 years now?
Yeah. So that's when I made that was when I was converted, I suppose, from a card gamer to an omni gamer.
Yeah.
If you will.
That's awesome. I mean, a lot of people obviously went from Magic the Gathering and D&D and things like that, maybe played a board game here and there and then got converted over. You know, we hear a lot of the stories about people playing Settlers of Catan and then, you know, realizing there's deeper design mechanisms and stuff that people have came up with since Monopoly and they get pulled in. So that's interesting. We'll talk about For Glory here in just a second, but, you know, just going off of this, when you start playing board games and such, I guess you were like, I got to design one of these at some point, right?
Yeah. I guess that's just part of my personality. Like, I like eating food, so I went to culinary school. And I like music, so I started a band and, like, wrote songs for a while. I guess it's just never enough to only consume things that I enjoy. I have this compulsion to also create.
Yeah, I have that exact same compulsion. Like, no matter what I do, it's like go big or go home, right?
Yeah.
You know, like same thing with me. I like music, so I have a band, or I like board games. I've designed some stuff, but I've not, you know, pursued the finishing part of it because that's the hard part, right?
That is the hard part.
Easy part, thinking up the idea, kind of laying it out. Hard part's actually fleshing it out and play testing it, and harder part's even publishing it at that point.
Yeah. Once you start publishing, you really get into a lot of stuff that I think, you know, no creative people really like to do, like taxes and other really, really boring stuff. But you just have to remember that it's all it's all part of the goal.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Like, I remember even going back to, you know, band stuff. I don't know how deep you got into it, but we had, like, you know, regionally we're pretty good as far as popularity and stuff. But we, like, made a CD. We did all the graphics, everything. We got it published and, you know, or released or whatever. We had all kinds of merch and stuff. But it's cool. It's cool to show up to a band's, you know, show and see all their merchandise and stuff, but you don't really think about behind the scenes. Like, somebody did all that artwork. Somebody went to a printer and was like, this is what I want. Okay, well, you got to hand it to me in this type of file with all these different layers of each color just being one layer and all this other stuff. Luckily, my brother is a massively good artist. He works for Thornton's as the art director. So he's, which is like a gas station chain. He does like all the signage and all their artwork and everything. And he's really, really good at what he does. So we had somebody on our team, quote unquote, that knew how to do all this. And, I knew how to do a lot of stuff too, but he was just a mastermind in it. But point is, if you're doing it yourself, there is so many facets to it. Whereas if you just pay somebody, it's like easy mode at that point.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I guess maybe it's not obvious, but I did not do any of the art or graphic design. The game would look terrible if I had tried that.
It's like stick figures with a bunch of blood.
Yeah. So I did hire people to do that stuff. And I got lucky by finding people who were really great to work with and really talented.
I guess I didn't think about you drawing that conclusion, but yeah, I was talking about all the Kickstarter stuff and setting it up and realizing you need bank accounts for this thing, or because I'm assuming you have to have like a small business type of thing. You don't want to just throw it into your debit account and all that. Well, I don't know. It sounds like a smart idea, right?
Yeah.
I guess you could.
Yeah, I'm just sort of, I started figuring it out as I went along. I set up my LLC like probably 2.5 years before I needed to, because I thought, you know what? If this is going to be a business, I need an LLC. But so then it just sat there and I had to fill out like
paperwork every year
for no reason.
My wife and I did that because she had a photography company, or she does photography, and I had the podcast and all this other stuff. And we were like, well, let's just make a company together and we can put whatever under the umbrella that we want. And it was just a lot of work for really nothing, because we didn't use it for anything. And then every year, you're right, like all the tax paperwork and all this other stuff and how many fees you got to pay to register things and keep it up. And you're like, okay, nope. But going back to the artwork though, I will say that the person you picked for, it's one guy, right? That you did the art, or at least the actual art.
Yeah. One guy did the majority of the illustrations. And then another guy did a few when the first guy wasn't available. And then 3 people split the graphic design work.
That's cool. Either way though, I really like the art. I mean, the art is just crazy and brutal. So good.
Thank you. Yeah. The artists were I think they had a really good time with it because I told them, this is a dark subject. So make it dark.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Just make it look like what it would be in that environment. Kind of like a Spartacus type of feel,
Yeah.
So let's talk about that before we get into the whole Kickstarter and everything. But let's tell everybody kind of like the general concept of For Glory and how the gameplay is, so that if somebody's not aware of the game, because obviously the Kickstarter, you can get the base game and the expansion in this campaign, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's just talk like somebody didn't know anything about For Glory, kind of give them the rundown on the base game. And then we'll go into the expansion and what it changes, what it adds, things like that.
Yeah, in For Glory, you are a Lanista, which is the owner of a gladiator school in ancient Rome. And obviously your goal is to get the most glory, just like a real-life Lanista. So every round is split into 2 phases. The first phase is like the week leading up to the gladiatorial games. And that's when you're building your gladiator school, recruiting new gladiators, training them in different tactics, and also meeting patrons, which are influential people who you need to actually get your gladiators into the games. Because there's like a whole political side to gladiatorial combat, historically speaking. And then at the end of every round, or I should say the second half of every round, it goes into the actual gladiatorial battle. So you place your gladiators into different arenas, during the first phase. And then during the arena phase, each arena has a battle where your gladiators duke it out against your opponents. And you win glory, and you also win arena abilities, which represent your gladiators just getting stronger by surviving combat. And then, so that's the base game, which was made for 2 players. And
I should add to anybody who doesn't know, this is a deck builder game, right?
Oh yeah, I should have added that.
No, which really fits, you know, after you told me kind of what got you into board gaming and the fact that you started playing Magic and went into Netrunner. I mean, deck building is basically a natural progression of those type of games. So it makes sense that that would be like, not really your go-to, but the thing you was like, yeah, you know, like this is going to be really cool type of mechanic for this type of game.
Yeah. And really, I tried the deck builders that were out there, and some of them claimed to have combat, and the way that I experienced them, it just didn't, it never really felt like combat. So yeah. I really wanted something more. I really wanted like a deep tactical combat experience, instead of just feeling like there is another resource in the game that's called damage or victory points that are called health or something. So that was the inspiration, because I thought the deck building mechanism, which I first discovered in Dominion, is just beautiful. It's so cool. But I don't want to just build the deck. I want to do something with the deck.
And kill people.
I also want to kill people.
Yeah. Let's see the blood. So what's the expansion gonna add and change as far as the rules go, and you know what can they expect to get out of the expansion?
So the expansion, it does a few different things. First of all, it adds a solo mode, which is you're playing against the Ludus Magnus, which was the biggest gladiator school in ancient Rome, and that's represented by a deck of cards. And basically, each time it's your opponent's turn, you draw a card. And it tells you what to do in 4 different possible situations. And so whatever situation you're in, you just go to that part of the card and it tells you what the Ludus Magnus does on that turn. So it's pretty streamlined. For me, playing solo games, it's important that I don't have to do much bookkeeping, because that's not the fun part. I want to strategize for myself. I don't want to
play spreadsheet.
Yeah. So I try to make it as streamlined as possible. And it basically mimics the 2-player game experience. And in addition to that, it expands the player count up to 4 players. You can play Battle Royale against up to 4 players. That's what I'm most excited about, actually, because in all of the playtesting we've been doing, I guess really it's because that really brings me back to those, you know, college days of sitting around playing Magic with a big group of people. Those diplomatic sort of battle royales.
Right, because you just make and break alliances as you're playing it, and just gang up on somebody or whatever.
and that's the sort of thing that I love. Like in playtesting, I've seen alliances last through 10 to 15 playtest sessions, and then I see the most brutal breakups.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's just beautiful to see that. But also it adds just more supply cards, so there's more variability in the strategies that you can employ. And it adds a new type of card called a champion, which is a 5-level gladiator. It's made up of 5 different cards. You start with level 1 in your deck, and then whenever you draw the champion, you can either pay to train it by putting the next level into your discard pile, or you can just play it as a gladiator. And at level 5... Does that
replace the level 1, I guess?
Yeah, you take 1 level out of your deck and put the next level in. But you have to send it away for training, so it goes in your discard pile and it comes back later. Or you can
this
just
is almost like a way to add like variable player powers, because I'm assuming you put that in your starting deck, you said, right?
And that's exactly where it grew out of. my goal was make variable player powers. So I tried a few different things, and this is the one that I landed on that was the most fun.
So with I had a couple questions about the expansion, actually. When it comes to multiplayer, is it still there's only like 3 arenas, or do you add more based on how many players? And do you have any variants or whatever for team play?
Yeah, we play tested a lot of different ways, and what we landed on that was just the most fun is one arena, just one big battle royale. But 2v2 also works really well. So that's a really easy variant. You don't even have to change any rules, except you just determine at the beginning of the game who your teammate is, and then you help each other out.
Do you have any contact information, or where can they go? Obviously, people can go to Kickstarter, but what is there, like your Facebook and website, things like that you want to plug in here?
Well, our website is Spielcraftgames.com. I love getting email subscribers on there. If you're interested in getting notifications about this campaign or about what we're going to be coming out with next. We do have a Facebook group called For Glory Tabletop Game Lannista's Guild, where fans of the game are just posting about, their strategies and, just what you'd expect to see in a Facebook group about a game.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I hope people visit the Kickstarter campaign. But I don't know if there's like a good way for me to give you a link verbally.
Yeah, I guess just Kickstarter and type in For Glory.
Yeah. Expansion is called the Champions expansion.
Champions.
That would be a good search term on Kickstarter, I suppose.
That's true. So, before we wrap this up, I got one more question for you. Do you have anything in the pipes? I guess, are you already working on stuff for Glory in the future, or do you have other games that you're thinking about? And or more importantly, do you plan on publishing anything outside of like your designs and things like that?
I want to make game publishing my career. I've already signed the next game with another designer, and I've been developing that for about a year now, working with the designer pretty closely so that we stick to their vision. But the game, I'm really excited about it. It's not similar at all thematically, but it's an absolutely beautiful game. It's called Cretaceous Rails. And just the gist of it is you have all these dinosaur board games out there, and they need a way to get dinosaurs, right? So this is the game where you build rails in the Cretaceous era to capture dinosaurs so that you can provide them to all the other dinosaur board games. But but it's actually like a very crunchy Euro game.
That's awesome. I could say I can't think of another game with the similar theme.
It is very fun to work on. It's a really satisfying Euro game, and it's about the same weight level as For Glory, which is kind of in my personal sweet spot. I like all weight levels, I guess, but I really like games that are not too hard to learn, but they get really deep as you explore the different strategies.
Yeah, like the rules are not, I wouldn't say simple, but they're not hard to understand, but the strategy in depth, kind of like a chess type of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Chess isn't hard to learn, but then chess gets complicated the more you think about it and the more you do and things like that.
Yeah. Chess is too stressful, I would say, for me to like sit down and enjoy on a normal day, but.
Well, cool. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up then? I
can't think of anything in particular.
All right. I'll ask one random question. And we were talking before this, obviously, so I'm going to exclude League of Legends. But if you had to pick another video game that you would consider, your number 2, what would you pick? What would be your favorite video game besides League of Legends?
Oh, well, I used to play a lot of video games. I haven't really loved video games except League of Legends as an adult. But Basically, the only thing I did my freshman year of high school was play Halo. So that would probably be my second.
You haven't even got back into the new Master Chief Collection or whatever that just released?
No. I've played a little bit of Titanfall 2 more recently, and that's actually kind of similar to Halo.
Yeah.
But and I quite enjoy that, but not nearly as much. I can't even believe how much I played Halo. I don't understand what compelled me to do that, but...
Was it all the LAN partying, or did you do it online?
It was all LAN parties. Just going to someone's basement with four Xboxes got brought over to someone's basement like every week.
You'll appreciate this then. My buddy, his brother, had a birthday recently, and they rented out 2 movie theater rooms and hooked up Xboxes to each. And so they had 8-player Halo, but 4 in each movie theater. Talk about ludicrous.
That would be fun.
It's like a 30-foot screen or whatever it is. Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm really excited about the expansion. You know, the base game is just crazy good. So, and the production value is great for as far as being a publisher. And this, like, as far as I know, this is your only game, correct?
Yeah, so far.
Like, the card quality is great. I mean, the components are awesome. It's got cool little swords and helmets and stuff and all the tokens. I mean, it's good stuff for your first game, man. I'm impressed. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what else you got coming out there, especially Train Dinosaur game or whatever it's crustacean rails.
Cretaceous rails.
Well, I said crustacean. Like I turned it into an ocean theme.
That sounds like a pretty good idea, actually.
It could be. You could. That's the expansion right there. Hopefully the Kickstarter does extremely well for you. We're going to try as hard as possible to push this. And yeah, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, Alex, for joining the podcast. It was awesome. I hope everybody checks this Kickstarter out and backs the game. The price is awesome for what you get. Even if you don't have For Glory, you can get the base game in the pledge. Highly recommend it. Check it out. For Glory, I believe, Champions expansion. And I think it's about time we wrap this episode up. So I want to thank you again for tuning in to episode 144 of the MeepleCore Gaming Podcast. This episode was recorded on October 19th, 2021. Send questions and comments to meeplecore@gmail.com. Check us out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And until next time, this is Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple. Keep on rocking and rolling dice.